Now let's take a deep dive into the US market, and we start with one of the biggest sector within the S&P 500, which is the technology under the software of infrastructure. And we will start with the first and the biggest under the same sector, which is Microsoft. As you can see, the color is green here, which it shows that it was up by 1.8%, 86%, and it stood at the level of 382.77 points. And the recent updates on Microsoft is a recent dip in Apple stock over worries about iPhone sales has left the Silicon Valley tech heavyweight in danger of being overtaken by Microsoft as the world's most valuable company. And fresh worries about smartphone demand have pushed Apple's shares down to 4% so far in 2024 after rallying 48% last year. And Microsoft is up about 2% year to date after surging 57% in last year, 2023. And Apple dipped 0.4% on Wednesday, while Microsoft added that 1.6%, further eroding the iPhone maker's lead. And Apple's stock market value is now at $2.866 trillion compared to Microsoft $2.837 per year. And also, I can share the latest updates on Apple stock shares. It stood at the level of 0.57% of increase and stood at the level of 1.6.19. And the latest update on Apple is that it shows that Microsoft has briefly taken the lead over Apple as the most valuable company most recently in 2021 when concerns about the supply chain shortages related to the COVID-19 pandemic hit the iPhone maker's stock price. And both tech stocks look relatively in terms of price to their expected earnings, a common method of valuing publicly listed companies. And moving on to Google, it shows a color of green and shows it was up by 0.87% and stood at the level of 143.8 points. And the latest update on Google is that Alphabet's Google went before a federal jury in Boston on Tuesday to argue against a computer scientist's claims that it should pay his company $1.67 billion for infringing patents that allegedly cover the processes used to power artificial intelligence technology in Google products. A lawyer for Singular Computing, founded by Massachusetts-based computer scientist Joseph Bates, told jurors that Google copied Bates' technology after repeatedly meeting with him to discuss his ideas to solve problems central to developing AI. And the lawyer Carrie Timbers said that after Bates shared his computer processing innovations with Google from 2010 to 2014, the tech giant, unbeknownst to him, copied his patented technology rather than licensing it to develop its own AI supporting chips. And Carrie also said that Bates' innovations were built into Google's tensor processing units used to support AI features in Google Search, Gmail, Google Translate, and also Google Services. And that's on Google under the sector of communication services. Moving on, we're going to go under the consumer cyclical or under the internet retail. Amazon, it shows green color as well, and it was up by 1.56% and stood at the level of 1.3.73. And Amazon will lay off several hundred employees in its streaming and studio operations, it said in an internal note on Wednesday, as companies extend their massive job cuts over the past 2 years in 2024. And the staff facing exit at Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios in the Americas will be informed on Wednesday and in most other regions by the end of the week. The online retail behemoth last year cut more than 27,000 jobs as part of a wave of US tech layoffs after the industry hired heavily during the pandemic. And the company has spent aggressively in recent years to bolster its media business, including $8.5 billion deal for MGM and around $465 million on the first season of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power on the Prime Video in 2022. It is also set to roll out ads on Prime Video as well as denote Netflix and also Walt Disney. All right, that's on Google. I'm going to move on the last one, which is Meta. which Meta was up by 3.65% and stood at the level of 370.47. And the same goes to other, Nvidia was also up by 2.28% and stood at the level of 543.50. And same goes to other sectors as well, which was mostly shows the color of green, which is a good impact to all the investors. And that's all the US markets under the sector of S&P 500.